That would make so much sense for meetings like this.
I know.
You could do impromptu training just on audio.
Shauna, what's up? You there? Oh, you're muted. There you are. What's up, buddy?
What's going on?
How are you?
Good. Awesome.
Good, good. Let me. Did you want to blah 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 screen share something?
Yeah.
All
I have
right,
something. Just got like 15 minutes and then you guys can get on to whatever you're.
All right, cool. Can you can do it on your end, right? You see it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I'm gonna expand this. Just give it a few minutes, or just got a text. A couple people are running a minute behind.
Okay.
So what's new with you? Which
Just working, baby. Keeping it going.
That's it, man. All right, let's see. Check her. Hi, Dawn. How are you, sweetie?
Good, how are you? Hi.
I'm Christy.
Hey, Christy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Take that.
Oh, shit.
Hi, Jaya. Can you hear me? Jaya, you there? She's not muted. I don't know what's wrong. All right. We'll mute her. All right, let's see. So Christy's banging away the op city, Sean.
Oh my gosh.
Is she?
Yeah.
Is she? She's doing
Every
good.
day I look, she's got like 18 leads.
There we go.
I can't hear you.
How's Dawn? Dawn still doing good?
Yeah, she's crushing it. She's here.
Hey, Sean. Done.
Hey.
Yeah, but no, because no, he's just on here.
Okay.
All right, Sean, if you want to run, we got Josh, Don, Christy, Brandon, and John, and then Jaya's on Zoom with us.
Okay.
We can start. A couple people fill in, then they fill in. It's no problem. I don't want to hold you up.
Let me go here, here.
There we go.
Whoops. Got click happy. Hold on.
Oh, this is a good one.
All right. Everybody see that?
Yep.
All right. So I thought this would be a good topic, especially right now in our market today, because we are seeing a rise in disputes related to contracts. We're obviously in a market where buyers are having a hard time finding homes. So they're wanting to hold on to what they got. And we
Josh, can you hear-
also have
Can you hear it down
an
there?
increase in, values in property, which is obviously tempting a lot of sellers to jump out of contracts when they find out that they may be able to get a little bit more. So it's kind of, hopefully help you avoid some of the things that we're seeing right now. Just to try to avoid some liability for yourself, for your client, and not end up in disputes. currently have a few of them going on, I can tell you, and you know, it's more than we've ever seen, and we just see more and more of that about buyers and sellers wanting to jump. So,
Sean, do you think you're seeing more of those liabilities come up because just there's more deals going on, more transactions, or are there certain items that are just being missed by agents or something along those lines because everybody's kind of in a rush to get a contract in and get stuff written up quick? Or, I mean, is there certain things you're seeing from that?
I don't think I'm seeing anything that is different as far as what agents may be doing or not doing on our side. I think it's more of the fact that there's more of an incentive, say, for a seller to jump out of a contract if they feel that they have the opportunity to go grab another offer for $10,000 more.
Yeah, we've had that. That's been an issue on a couple deals too, actually.
Yep. You know, and we're seeing that a lot. And we're having to remind people that, you know, you have a legal obligation. This just isn't a notepad. You know, this is an agreement between you and the purchaser. And then on the purchaser side, you know, I think as you guys have known, inventory is extremely low. They've sold their house. They're under pressure to go find something new. They found it finally after submitting multiple offers. And, you know, now something comes up where, you know, there's a dispute between the buyer and the seller, and the buyers are willing to take it a lot further than they normally would for the fact that they feel that they're not going to be able to go out there and find something else.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know, so all of this and kind of this is, you know, I think one of the issues that we ran into, Greg, which was, you know, watch out for multiple offers in this situation. I know that a lot of agents have stuff that's going on the market, and, you know, within 24 hours, they have multiple offers coming in.
Yep.
You know, this time for acceptance, you know, it's not just when you have it in writing, you have to give them the time to accept that's within this clause, you know, and make sure that you don't have your seller countering multiple offers that can end up leaving you in a position where you have two active contracts at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the things. This has always kind of been one of the biggest issues. You know, again, when you know, I know that a lot of agents don't want to go over the contract because there's legal ramifications and stuff. But, you know, I would definitely make sure that your clients have an understanding that, you know, number one, specifically, this is a legal obligation, you know, flat out. And then number two, that you've got to meet these deadlines. These just, you know, these just aren't there for show. You got, Jaya, did you have something?
No, I have a question because I just got through that with someone. I had a big issue. My client offered full price, met the terms, everything was fine, and we couldn't get a signature, but he committed in an email to take the contract. So, you know, for 10 days, I upped the contract, I made the changes, I did everything. And until I called her broker, she was not going to send in that signed contract that was in her email. And so I called her broker and I got it within 20 minutes. So my question is, what do you do when that happens to us?
I mean, as far as making sure that an offer is presented by, you know, a buyer or a seller's agent, that's a really tough subject. You know, I think what you did was contacting the broker was the right thing. Obviously, you guys know, you know, that you're required to, present all offers, I can tell you that, and that's actually it's funny you brought that up because probably about a month ago, I think we have more listing agents that are trying to double team both sides because of the market right now. And I know one agent that's facing a FREC hearing because she never presented an offer, and the other agent actually filed a complaint with FREC. So she's going to be heading up to Orlando to have a nice little meeting with them.
Is there a reason why she didn't present the offer?
I mean, that you'd have to ask her that. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
why
it's crazy.
wouldn't present it. That's kind of on them. But back to this time for acceptance and effective date, you got to remember that all the other dates in the contract run on calendar days, with the exception for time for acceptance and the effective date. So time for acceptance and the effective date, if it's a Saturday, Sunday, or a holiday, is going to fall on the next day. Why this is important. I see defaults on escrow deposits a lot. And again, these aren't issues that in a regular market, when there's inventory out there, come up a lot. They're kind of, most sellers would say, okay, you got the deposit. Oh, well, let's just move forward. But again, now that we're in a situation where there might be an incentive for that seller to jump ship, you got to make sure that you're conveying the right thing. And, in the case of time for acceptance in the effective date, the last date of the initial or signature on a contract, if it falls on a Saturday, is not the effective date. So if she's got 3 days saved for her escrow deposit, make sure that you're not giving them the wrong date, because that's an automatic default on the buyer side.
So Sean, are there any, we've actually had this come up a little bit, where we've had the buyer side and the sellers are trying to back out, make it obvious that they have other offers that are higher.
Yep.
But if our buyers are under contract, what are the ramifications of the sellers if they decide to just not show up to closing? Because that's kind of been something that actually came up a few times. Everybody says there's not many ramifications because there's, they don't have a deposit on the line or whatever the case may be, but there's definitely buyers can sue for damages. But are there any other ramifications regarding that if a seller just decides, hey, I'm just not going to perform?
I mean, besides a lawsuit, I mean, you got to think in the legal world, damages can be anything, if you've been in business, and as your business grows, in my opinion, and maybe a lot of this is based on my personal experience, is lawsuits are inevitable. The larger you grow, something's going to happen, and you just got to limit as much liability as possible. If the seller just doesn't want to move out, yeah, we have a dispute right now. Seller just wanted to jump ship, and guess what? Buyer sued him. So don't think you don't have this. Again, I think your only job is not to interpret for them, what the legal ramifications are, but relay to them that there are legal obligations. And if I was an agent and you feel at any point in time that they're heading in a direction potentially that they should not be heading in, my first thing would be to send that person an email and say, I think you should speak to an attorney before you do this. Shift all the liability off yourself and get it onto them, because you never want to have to worry about the #1 lawsuit against agents is a breach of fiduciary duty.
Mm-hmm.
So quickly sending that out and put it in writing, I think will help alleviate at least a lot of liability on your part And also give, your seller or buyer sound advice of what they're getting into before they make any sudden moves.
Yeah.
And I see this all the time. I don't know why people ignore the contract, but I don't know how else you can say it when it's a legal binding contract. I mean, this isn't, something that's on a post-it that you guys just, or something that you agreed to orally. So to make sure that you don't, because it sounds like from what I'm hearing, some of the feedback is you're getting a lot of sellers that are getting ready to jump ship. And I think we know, being an agent, if you get an offer in 24 hours, which is happening a lot, it's very likely if that were home or on the market for a week, you probably get a potentially higher offer. So I mean, that's just the reality of the market that we're in right now. So to protect yourself, especially on the buyer side, I would make sure that, the first thing you do is I would get all the dates that, are due for my client in a contract, or excuse me, in my calendar, to help them follow up and make sure that they don't miss some of this. Yes, I understand that's their responsibility per the contract, but this is also something that is saving your deal.
100%. Yeah.
So, the first, as the contract relays, the first escrow deposit missed a day late, they're automatically in default. So that seller has a right to jump ship. And that's where the effective date and all that stuff comes in. Make sure your inspections, and this is kind of a general question, maybe to help clarify for me, when an inspection's done, how long does it take the inspectors to get a report back to you guys or to your clients? Really?
I mean, yeah, it depends on the inspector. It should be within 24 hours. For the most part, the agents at the inspection, they can actually talk to the inspector right then and there and say, hey, what are the issues that you would try to rectify with the seller? So, I mean, honestly, day of inspection, if the agent's there, there's no reason why you can't start negotiations as far as credits or repairs that day. But, some agents or some buyers like to actually see the report and go over it fine tune, but usually at that point you could have it within 24 hours.
Yeah. So I mean, be reasonable with dates. If you're on the buyer side, for inspections, and you guys are going to be the experts in this area as far as knowing, how long it's taking. I know a lot of other, lenders, appraisers, everybody's got about double the work than they did a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Before you just start filling stuff out, number one, make sure it's reasonable with your client. When you're filling out a contract, I would urge you to reach out to your client and say, this is what I'm going to put for the escrow deadline. We have situations where people have to pull money out of certain investments and stuff, and that takes 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that they conform with the contract, before they just sign it, because unfortunately, a lot of buyers and sellers do just sign the documents without, reading much of them.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually had that issue with the inspection period too. Putting in 7 days to kind of provoke a little bit better offer, and make it a little more tractable to the seller. And then they can't get an inspector there in 7 days because the inspector's backed up, so they have to go out and find another inspector, or just try to find anybody that will do it within that 7 day period.
Correct. And, I think that needs to be relayed to the seller, a little bit better. If they're trying to get another offer in there with a shorter inspection period, I mean, you got to be reasonable with people. And I think, in my opinion, some of my experiences, I think courts of law look very highly at people that are being reasonable. When they're being unreasonable to another party, I do think that that affects the outcome of the case. That's solely my opinion, based on some of my experiences. So, if you're going to put down there, 3 days for inspection, and that's just not going to happen, they're not going to get the report. You're just, number one, if you're the buyer's rep, that's just putting your client in a bad position, obviously, because you've kind of knowingly put them in a situation where they can't be fulfilled, because guess what? Here comes a breach of fiduciary duty, where who's recommending the inspector? Buyer's agent. If they were going out and getting their own, that might be a little bit different situation. So the other thing that you need to keep in mind, as far as property inspections go, that it's not just the physical inspection. It's the physical condition along with building, governmental, all those other searches that we do on our side that are part of that inspection period. So open permits, we don't get those back, on average for like 10 or so days. There are certain municipalities that offer rushes.
When'd you get a picture of my shower?
Come on, get it together, Sean. Back to that, that inspection period includes all of those reports too. So, if an open permit comes back, and some of those other lien issues, it's going to be a harder argument once you pass those contingency periods. And same thing, if something breaks, fix it. Advise your sellers of that. If something comes to light during the walkthrough that, the sellers just decided, hey, this is their problem now, it's going to come back to them. Because that's another situation where there's potential default for the seller there. We've run into this, a couple times here recently, but just leave it how it was first shown in the MLS, really, because if anybody ever goes back and they were to look at pictures or anything, I would believe that if you had a photographer in there, it's going to show most of the property where they'll be able to tell that the property was in condition. Seller's obligation, HOA disclosures, huge. We don't get a lot of these. No, we get some, but we see these missed a lot. And this is where you can have a dispute for actually both the buyer and the seller, because you have a clause in the contract that says the buyer should not execute, without the buyer's disclosure. And then you also have Florida Statute 72401, which requires owners to provide that disclosure prior to the contract execution. So if you're just filling out, a buyer's agent just sends you a contract and you're not either requiring them to provide the HOA or condo disclosure, or filling it out and sending that back as a counter, that's a potential default on your seller side. And, I've seen a couple of recent cases with this, and the contract's just been null and void, default on the seller. Because what happens is when we do get it, estoppels and things like that back, they find out about the assessments, they find out about litigation of the HOA and stuff like that, and then it kind of all falls back to this. So, getting everything up front, I think makes a better pathway and a lot less work for yourselves through the closing process. You know, so that's just something to walk, you know, look out for, because it is an area where we don't see a whole lot of HOA disclosures. Maybe 30% of the files actually have HOAs. Modifications, I mean, this is kind of simple. Any and everything should be in writing, no oral. Contracts, agreements, otherwise, you know, and we actually just ran into this yesterday. They agreed to do this, this, and this. Where's the addendum? Okay, well, it's not in writing. You just cost your client $3,000. So make sure it's all in writing.
It doesn't matter what kind of writing either, too, right?
What's that?
It doesn't matter what kind of writing. We had an agent that was doing a deal for a buy side, but he was trying to list their property, and the owner had already written, like, on just literally on like a scratch pad, like, I will sell this house with so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. They both signed it. And I was like, there's no way that's legit. It's not a contract. It's not anything. And it was like, nope, it's legit. It's written out. It doesn't matter if it's a bar napkin or what it's on. It's written.
I mean, there's the contract, and then there's real life.
Mhm.
And we have a lot of agents call us, is like, you know, what can the seller do this? Can the buyer do this? And usually it's all relating to lawsuits and what could happen.
Yeah.
You know, the reality of litigation, in my opinion, today is you need to understand that the seller or buyer can do anything that they want. They can file any lawsuit they want. It can be frivolous, it can be not frivolous. But, and I see them both happen. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And I think when it comes to a dispute situation, I think the best thing to do is pump the brakes, everybody breathe. And whether you're right or wrong, there's right, there's wrong, and then there's the outcome. And is the outcome going to be favorable to you, even if it's in your favor? So what I mean by that is your client going to spend $10,000 or $50,000 defending a lawsuit because you guys are arguing over $4,000? So, you know, just keep those things in mind. And the contract, and I'm saying you can be completely right with the contract, but there's a reason that 99% of cases are settled before going to court. You know, and you have a lot of attorneys out there, in my opinion, you know, that's what they do for a living. They file, they know they're going to settle, whether they have a case or not. They know that this company A or this guy's just not going to fight him because he's not willing to take it to the helm with spending $20,000 or $30,000. It's easier to give this guy 10 or just give him what he wants to walk away. You know, and unfortunately, that's my opinion, the legal system that's a little broken today. You know, going into addendums, not the time to start your creative writing career. If you don't know what you're trying to convey, don't. You know, the first resource I go to is obviously all the contracts and form simplicity, app files, whatever you use. I mean, I think the FAR bar is actually, you know, Florida's done a great job at putting a lot of the addendums together that are specific for every situation. So, you know, before you try to drum up your own language, I would look in there first. And, you know, the next thing is, if you're struggling with something that's just not clear or straightforward, or you just need an opinion, obviously most of you know my wife, send it to her, let her look over it before you just, you know, send it off for all parties to sign. You know, and it all kind of goes to, you know, knowing what you're trying to convey and why. You know, and this is probably the most common example I see is, you know, buyer and seller agree to extend the closing date. You know, but there's generally a why factor behind this. You know, it is financing, inspections, everybody's just not extending the closing date because they want to. It's because something's being held up in the process, and the problem with just extend the closing date, if you're on the buyer side and say it's a financing contingency, just extending the closing date doesn't extend the financing contingency. Just extending the closing date doesn't extend the inspection period. So, be very aware of that, because I think that is an extremely common misconception on, all parties, in our industry and out of our industry, being the sellers and the buyers. It's just something that we need to practice on and make sure that your clients, because if that was your intent, which I know it is a good majority of the time, the purpose is, you're extending the closing date so they can get financing. But when they don't get financing, you extended the closing date and now you've missed that deadline and they're locked in. They've already lost their deposit because you didn't put it in writing that, either the financing needed to be extended, or we're opting out to go forward with the contract. Same with inspection.
Absolutely. Sean, Pam has a question.
I have a closing supposed to be on Friday, and both parties have agreed to close on Monday because the closing disclosure is not going to be out in time. So that's a TRID. They have to have it for 3 days. So do I still have to write an addendum, or is it just fine?
No,
Happens on Monday?
that's actually, I think it's always good to at least have, what the hell, I have it here. TRID. Oh. Where the hell is my financing? Sorry, I thought I had that in there, but no, per the contract, it already has a built-in clause where if the disclosure is not received per TRID, that 3 days prior, they can automatically extend up to 3 days.
Okay, that's what I thought, but then I wasn't sure if it had to be in writing.
No, I mean, for me, I prefer everything in writing.
Right.
So if I ever look at something that I feel could be argued, I'm gonna go in and in that example, ask, or look for the correspondence that came from the lender that said this wasn't disclosed in time, just so I can have it for my records. If the seller, again, decides that he's going to say, oh, Greg, I think we can get $15,000 more for this property. They just defaulted. Let's go, put it back on the market. So, I mean, keeping that all for your files, I think, is a great idea. I mean, that's about all I had. So if you guys want to have some additional questions, some specific situations that you're running into, I'd be happy to have an answer.
Anybody have anything?
Yeah, yeah.
Josh has a question for you.
Back to that effective date acceptance. You said if the last initial date is the effective date at that point, yes or no?
Depends on what day it falls on.
Right, I got that. So, all right,
So right here, so effective, so the last initial date, if it fell on a Saturday, is gonna be Monday.
right.
Is that even if it's a non-issue, like a name change or something? Something that has nothing to do with the terms of the agreement, but someone has the wrong
Kinda what I'm
name.
at, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a simple little initial because everyone has to have the right name on there. Is that going to be the effective date?
Well, I guess that's who you gotta go back to who's gonna argue it. I would think that's a pretty weak argument for misspelling.
Because that's happened before, but then I've sent an email saying everyone agrees that this is the effective date.
I mean, you can addendum that though. You could just do an addendum. for
Yeah,
that.
for me.
But-
That's like just a weak
but it-
example, but it's
But it,
happened.
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. That's why I'm asking more or less, because if it's like 2 or 3 days after,
Mhm.
and then you're already in inspection 2 or 3
Mhm.
days, and then everybody's like, oh, well, we bumped up.
Yeah, we
and
just,
let's extend it by 3 days,
yeah,
based on something that's trivial like that.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at those effective dates and, with inspection periods and stuff like that, I feel like when the inspection periods are kind of jammed down the buyer's throat really hard, all we do is we see addendums for extensions of inspection dates. I mean, ultimately, that's what happens because everybody's trying to keep the deal together. So, I think it just be reasonable in the beginning. But did that answer your question, Josh? As far as?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
anybody going once,
Twice.
going twice? You are finito, my friend. You've done your work for the day. You may take the rest of the day off, Sean.
Sweet.
Yeah, everybody's got your contact info. Everybody, I don't know if like Christy and Pam may not know Sean. Yeah, so Sean's with Producer's Title. Him and his wife own the company. They're our in-house title. His wife Olivia's the attorney. So like he was saying, if you're questioning something to write in the addendum or something, you can send it off to her. So yeah, we got some cards and stuff here for them, but yeah, appreciate it, Shawno. If anybody needs anything, they'll reach out to you guys.
Absolutely. And if there's any content you want Olivia or something to go over, if you guys have any hot subjects you want to discuss, such as FERPTA or any of that stuff, you can just shoot me an email and, we'll get it included in one of these future sessions here.
Yeah, so I think Pam had a question for you.
So if we start using you for title and we have like a legal question, you guys don't mind us just asking? It's not like an hourly rate or anything like that.
So that'd be checks made payable to Greg Emerald, and then
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
disperse it to Sean.
No, that's a great question, and questions are great. We would rather you, if you have a legal question, call Olivia and ask her first before doing anything. Don't put yourself in that position by, guessing, the impact of something. She'll be more than happy to help you. And that's kind of what I said with the addendums. If something's kind of out of the purview of one of those standard, say like a post-closing agreement addendum or something like that, and you want something specific, just run it by her, even if you think it's okay, feel free to email her. And she can add the language for you and, make sure that you're protected and your clients are protected.
Cool. We appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, have a great one.
Thanks. Is there any way you could maybe shoot me this this PowerPoint in an email and I can send it off to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, Sean, we'll catch up with you later.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, buddy. All right. Don't mind that guy.